It's like being back in Ann Arbor.
It's great. Wait, before we get, what we got with a hat here?
It's a Texas thing.
Oh, you're from Texas?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, good.
Good. Had to whip it out.
All right, good. All right. Stick with the brand. That's good. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What's it like being here for a big game back in Ann Arbor? You guys were here last November, but this is a big early season game.
Yeah, it's always great to come here. This is one of the grand cathedrals of the sport, and I think with Michigan coming off that championship last year and all of the change, with Sharon taking over for Jim Harbaugh, it's a real measuring stick, litmus test kind of game to see where they are in their progress and their recalibrating, as it were.
Desmond was kind of saying that if he was a coach, he would hold things back last week, as maybe Michigan did, maybe they didn't. How do you kind of evaluate a matchup like this, of this caliber, without kind of really knowing what Michigan even is at this point?
Well, the entire offense is gone. I mean, they have two starters back, or two major contributors back, and tight end and Loveland and Donovan Edwards, who wasn't really a starter, but obviously been a prominent part of the offense for the last several years. So, how much they held back, I don't know, maybe some, but I think the bigger question is, can they gel well enough to put up a significant number of points? Now you're throwing a dart if you pick a number of points, but I can't fathom Michigan winning the game if the offense can't put up 24 to 27 points. I mean, because Texas is going to score. Michigan's defense is excellent, but Texas is going to score. So the offense is going to have to do its part, and I suspect you're going to see a lot of the stuff that Michigan's been built on the last few years, try to wear them down, because with Sweat and Murphy gone for Texas, Texas, they've recruited great. They're bringing in new guys, great players, but you're talking about two, war daddies, as the old school coaches would say, in the middle, that could really wreak havoc on a defensive front. So that's Michigan's identity. It might be where Texas still has to prove itself. So that would be what I would expect. Shorten the game, run the ball, try to wear them out a little bit, and then maybe that lowers that target number for the offense and makes it more attainable for them to win the game.
Michigan threw out two quarterbacks last week, two running backs really kind of splitting those carries. What did you see from watching Michigan last week and doing that kind of stuff? And then going into this game, could you see Michigan kind of doing the same thing, or kind of along the lines of their questions, is it just such a bigger magnitude where you feel like Sharon Moore really has to make a decision going into this game for what they do to win?
You mean make a decision in terms of who's going to play quarterback?
Yeah.
I think you ride the hot hand because both guys were unproven. I mean, Davis Warren, won the job, appears to be the guy who maybe, operates a little more efficiently right now in the passing game. But Alex Orji is, ridiculously talented athlete. I was just talking to the strength coach at Michigan, and, he was talking about how Alex blows him away every day, and they have to remind themselves, this guy's a quarterback. I remember watching him throw in warm-ups before the Rose Bowl last year and going, okay, well, we know he's got an arm, and there's no question about that. But he's developing. And I think that, a lot of times that we start expecting guys to be finished products early into their careers, and sometimes it just takes a little more time. Everybody's not going to roll in and play as a freshman like Trevor Lawrence did, or Tua Tagovailoa, whoever else. Sometimes guys take time. I just called a game on Sunday night between USC and LSU where Garrett Nussmeier and Miller Moss both played brilliantly, and they've waited since 2021, to get their opportunities. So, I wouldn't be panicked that Alex hasn't won the job yet. And also, Davis has overcome so many different things in his life. He was a pretty highly thought of guy too before he hit some of those roadblocks. So they're both developing, and I would say they'll probably see both play to their strengths, and then you ultimately, over the course of the game, ride the hot hand.
A lot of stars going to be here, guest pickers and everything else. Michael Phelps, Will Ferrell, Chris Webber, I believe, or is that the other show? But just talk about,
There's no other show.
There are no other shows, but my bad. But just talk about, everything around this one, and these two teams playing for the first time on a campus seems to bring out a lot of different notable people.
It's kind of crazy. I know a lot of it is because of various bowl affiliations in the old days.
Sure.
But when you have two teams in the top 4 all-time wins list, two teams with the rich traditions that both have, kind of hard to believe that they haven't played except for that Rose Bowl. And it's great to see. And I hope as we are, entering into a new era of college football with the expanded playoff and conference realignment, and the likelihood that people have to change a century's worth of thinking, that it's not just about keeping the zero in that lost column. You can still make the playoff with 2 losses. And I predict you'll have a 3-loss team in the playoff this year.
Sure.
That there's value in playing these games.
Mm-hmm.
Texas is going to have its hands full with an SEC slate. Michigan's going to have its hands full with a Big Ten slate. These games need to be played, and I hope they continue to play them. And it's a treat for us to be able to be here to see it.
So, calling a lot of, I guess, big games over the year. What's your favorite part about your preparation and like preparing for those games that you're going to call for?
I think you just try to. I mean, you always try to look. I remember I had the opportunity to be friendly with the great Dick Enberg later on in his life, and Dick used to talk about the what he called the mother-in-law stories that he would put on a pad, that he could tell a story, weave it in during the game, not hijack the broadcast and take it a different way, but if a player does something significant and you can tell a story about a guy that people that may not be rabid football fans will care about and give them a reason to, I want to watch that guy some more, then I enjoy that part of the broadcast. And the art is to do it without going in and preparing and going, I've got to get my story in, because I had a couple in the SC LSU game the other night that I really wanted to get in. Opportunity didn't present itself. They fell on the floor. That's the way it goes. But you want to prepare in that way so that you can give the broadcast a little bit more. And we'll do the same thing here on Game Day, whether it's with our feature stories or a little one-line thing about about a different guy that might give people a little bit of an insight into who they are, aside from just being a number on the field.
You mentioned the Michigan offense, but what's the path to victory for Michigan? Obviously, they're considered to be a pretty sizable underdog in this one. I don't think many are giving them a chance, so how do they get there?
Control the ball first, effective in the running game, efficient when the opportunities come in the passing game, stay stubborn with the running game. They're going to have shorter third downs so they can convert them and stay on the field. That's number one. They got to pay off drives. Texas is a hard team to beat kicking field goals. You got to get in the end zone. So I think they have to run the ball, stay patient with it, shorten the game a little bit, and maybe make Texas press and feel like, geez, Michigan just held the ball 7 minutes, we got to score. Make them impatient, because I do favor Texas in the game. Texas is more proven. Doesn't mean Michigan doesn't have the opportunity to have a great season if they don't have outstanding players. It's all new. Texas is returning quarterback. Even though the receivers are new to Texas, they've got experienced receivers who played elsewhere. Michigan's defense is like that. Michigan's defense, a bunch of guys back. So it's not going to be easy for Texas offense. I don't mean to imply that, but I just think in the way football is played these days, you don't often, even with great defenses, see people hold good teams to 13 points or 7 points. So you're going to have to do some things on offense, and I think that's the path to victory for Michigan. Run the ball, be effective in the run, frustrate Texas a little bit, make them impatient when they have it, and then they'll have the opportunity to pull the upset, which sounds crazy for the longest winning streak in the nation, home field, defending national champions, to pull an upset at home. So this is the type of game and setup that a lot of us will look at and start saying things like that, and then fellas in the winged helmets come out and say, oh, by the way, we're still Michigan. So it should be fun.
Real quick, a lot of the things you just listed with the Texas offense and how Michigan's path is, does that feel any way at all similar to some of the Ohio State games the last few years?
I know, not the last few years, to be honest. I mean, I see what you're saying in terms of like
the formula,
C.J. Stroud off the field and so forth.
Right.
But I think that Michigan was more established in its identity then.
Yeah.
I mean, their identity may be the same, but the people executing that identity are still proving themselves. So I think that's the difference. But it's a fair point in terms of what needs to happen. Michigan just did it well, the last few years against Ohio State, for sure.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.